Writes with guest presenter Eric Lofholm. This is Flying Off the Shelves, What Every Author Needs to Know to Sell More Books. And Eric Lofholm is a sales expert. He has 20 years training professionals, or I'm sorry, 14 years of training professionals, but 20 years of sales experience. Is that right, Eric?
Yes.
And what's exciting about Eric, and the reason that I was wanting to bring him on to present to all of you, is because Eric knows a lot about training non-sales people how to sell. And when I think of authors, I think of a lot of times of non-sales people. I think that authors too often don't know the importance of selling or don't feel comfortable selling, especially when it's your product, your book. So what we're really wanting to do is flip that mentality on its head. Eric is the perfect guy to do that, and so I just couldn't be happier to bring him to you guys tonight. And with that said, Eric, we're ready to roll, and thank you so much for bringing this presentation to our community tonight.
Fantastic. Well, Brooke, I appreciate the kind words. I'm excited for all of you that are here with us, watching live or watching the recording. And if my screen looks a little different than what you're used to seeing, it's we had a little glitch. I'm aware that I'm not in the typical mode of PowerPoint here. So just know that I'm aware of that, and we're doing workarounds to create a great experience for all of you. And so I'm excited to be here. Our topic today, we're calling it Flying Off the Shelves, What Every Author Needs to Know to Sell More Books by Eric Lofholm. It's possible that you'll experience a breakthrough from this webinar that will result in a permanent change in your business to help you sell more books, and also in any other areas of your business to be successful in sales. There's nothing more powerful than a good idea whose time has come. And so with where you're at right now in your life and the message that I have to share with you tonight, it could be the exact message that you need to hear. I want to take a moment and acknowledge you for being on this webinar, because I know that for some of you, the last thing that you want to do is sell, and it's not your fault. In our culture, there's a stigma to sales. We've been programmed in our culture to resist selling, yet you recognize at some level that improved sales skills can help you with your book project and any other aspects of your business, or you wouldn't be on this webinar. So thank you for being open-minded, even if you do have resistance. I look at life through the lens of sales. And so if I was on the game show Jeopardy, I would not do very well, because I don't know a lot about a lot of things. But I do know a lot about sales, and it's because I've chosen to focus on this one area of business for over 20 years. And I wanted to share a couple of just funny, silly examples of I look at life through the lens of sales. My son, Brandon, he's 11. He started 6th grade today. And when he turned 7 years old, we had his birthday party, and I wanted to have a lot of kids to the party. For whatever reason, I had this bee in my bonnet, and I wanted a lot of kids there. And my wife handles all the details of kids' birthday parties, and so I checked in with my wife. It was a Wednesday, and the party was on Saturday, and I said, honey, how many kids are coming to the party? And she said, I don't know, I think 3 or 4 RSVP. And I was not happy with that number. So I asked my wife for the roster of the kids that my son goes to school with, and I started cold calling the roster in order to boost the attendance of my son's birthday party. And yes, I did close some of those kids, and I got the numbers up. I met my wife, Jairus. We've been together for a little over 20 years, and I met my wife as a referral. So I look at life through the lens of sales. And I want to start off and share with you about my story. Now, I want to just kind of do a little pause here for a second and explain to you why I'm doing this, because this is a golden nugget for you. You see, when you are talking to somebody about your book, right, you want to get on a radio show. You are on a conference call like this talking to a group of people. You're talking to a bookstore about doing a book signing. I mean, there's all kinds of different scenarios where you're going to need to connect with somebody to influence them to gain their favor. You want them to email their database to promote your book. You want a blogger who has influence with your target market to do a review or allow you to do a contributing blog post. One of the things that's very, very persuasive is your story. And so you want to think in terms of two stories. One story is your own story as it relates to your project. And then number two, what is the story of your book? And that's something that you want to practice and prepare, so when somebody says, well, tell me about your book, and you can then successfully tell them the story. So when I do webinars like the one that you're on right now, and I do this with regularity as a way to get my message out to the world, I open with my story. So I was very successful right out of high school. My first job that I ever had right out of high school, I made over $100,000 right out of high school. Now, I didn't make over $100,000. I made over 100,000 hamburgers. I was a cook at McDonald's. This is a picture of me working at McDonald's, where I worked for 3 years. And while I was working at McDonald's, I was attending community college. And I attended community college. Of course, you're supposed to go to community college for 2 years. I went for 5 years and never graduated. I'm still a couple of units shy of my AA degree, which is the 2-year degree. So in my early 20s, I was not exactly on the fast track to success. I had no goals, no direction, and then everything changed for me, and I experienced a turning point. And I opened this webinar with, there's nothing more powerful than a good idea whose time has come. I went and saw a speaker named Dante Pirano. Dante shared the exact message that I needed to hear at that moment in my life, and I became so inspired by his message, I went to work for him. Dante is a multi-millionaire real estate investor. So I went to work for him, kind of like the show The Apprentice with Donald Trump, if you've ever seen that show. I had an apprentice-like experience in my early 20s. And when I got the job was a sales job. So this is a photo of me at my first sales job 20 years ago. It was very stylish. In this photo, as you could tell, I had my purple pants and my matching plaid socks. And so at this company, I had no sales background. I had never been trained in sales before, and I was the bottom producer. And at the end of my first year, my manager pulled me in the office, and he said, Eric, selling is not for everyone, and it's probably not for you. You've been my bottom producer the whole time you've been here, and you missed your quota 2 months in a row. So they had a quota, a minimum standard of $10,000 in sales that had to be achieved monthly in order to maintain, keep your job. So I'm about to get fired from my job, and I have a very real problem. I don't know how to sell. And I share this story with you because you may be struggling right now with the sales aspect of your book project, of contacting radio stations or talking to people about helping you get the word out. I call them people of influence. They have influence with your target market, and if they assisted you, it could really make a difference. And those calls may be, a little bit scary for you, or you're not sure what to say when you talk to these folks, or just the whole idea of asking for support, or if you had an opportunity to give a presentation, sell your book from the front of the room, and being really uncomfortable when you get to the money part. And if that is any of you listening, I want you to know that I understand, because that's where I was at. I was terrible at selling, and I started looking for answers because I was about to get fired from my job, and I met this individual. His name is Dr. Donald Moyne, and Dr. Moyne is the author of this book, which you can get on Amazon.com, Unlimited Selling Power, which in my niche, sales training, is one of the sales classics. And Dr. Moyne, I affectionately call him the Obi-Wan Kenobi of sales training. If you remember Obi-Wan from Star Wars, and Obi-Wan mentored Luke Skywalker. Well, Dr. Moyne mentored me. And Dr. Moyne, from my view, is the top sales mind living today. So you get coached by somebody at that level, if you're motivated like I was and you're coachable, as you can imagine, my results went up. The next month I did $10,500 in gross sales. That means I made quota by one sale. And the following month I did $51,000, becoming the top producer in my division. I went from worst to first in 60 days once I was professionally trained. And what I learned from that experience is that selling is a learned skill. What I learned is that it is true some people are born great salespeople. I wasn't one of them. I didn't excel in sales until I was professionally trained. Here's the good news. The good news is that for any of you listening right now, there are proven principles of influence that if you apply them to your book project or any aspect of your business, because all of you do different things. Some of you, the book is a part of a larger platform where you have coaching programs and seminars, or you have a vision or dream to do that. Others of you, you have other business things that you're involved in. And there are proven principles that anybody can learn. Now, here's what's interesting. From my experience, in many cases, unless you're a naturally gifted salesperson, which I wasn't, they're not intuitive, but they're easy once it's explained to you. It's not intuitive, and at the same time, it's easy once it's explained to you. So once Dr. Boyne explained it to me, I'm like, oh, I can do that. And I did do it, and I have become very successful in selling. How I became a trainer of these skills is my natural gifts. I believe every one of you listening right now, every one of you is born with natural gifts and talents. And when you can identify your natural gift and talent and wrap your business around it or wrap your book project around it, that's a very, very powerful thing. Some of you are writers, right? Some of you have people that help you write the book. I've written some books, and I've had people assist me with that, ghostwriters or editors or whatnot. Others of you, you're brilliant at the writing piece. That's part of your natural gifts, your natural talent. And one of my natural gifts is teaching. Once I understand something, I can break it down and explain it to somebody else in a way where they can easily understand it. And so I started sharing with people in my early 20s my sales techniques I learned from Dr. Boyne. And I started producing sales champions and others through teaching. I then went to work for Tony Robbins. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Tony Robbins before. I worked for Tony for 3 years, and then I branched off just under 15 years ago and started my current company, Lofholm International. We're a global sales training organization, and our mission is to help people make more sales. And the way that we do that is we provide professional, affordable, virtual training. So it doesn't require that you travel anywhere. You can work right from the comfort of your own home and receive the training so you can have the skill sets to make whatever your dream is with your book project, whatever your dream is with your career, to have the sales skills necessary in order to make that dream happen. I live in Rockland, California, which is a small town just outside of Sacramento, California. It's a little bit older photo of my family. This is my son, Brandon, who is now 11, my daughter, Sarah, who's just in 3rd grade. Today was first day of school. She's 8 now. And my wife, Jairus, and we've been married now for a little bit over 20 years. So I have 2 outcomes for my presentation tonight. My first outcome is to share with you some golden nuggets to help you with this whole conversation around sales. Help you sell more books, help you become comfortable with sales, help you be comfortable with the different techniques of selling, which is generating leads, scheduling appointments, which could be scheduling radio interviews or book signings, or you being a guest speaker, or collaborative business relationships, and to help you to do that. And my second outcome is to extend an invitation for you to enter into a mentoring relationship with me. And I have an opportunity that I'll share at the very end of the webinar where we can train together for as little as $50 a month. So it's affordable for any of you that would like to receive professional training. Okay, now I'm going to take a little time out for a second, and I want to teach you what I'm doing right now. I don't normally do this, but I want to pull back the curtain so you understand this particular technique, because it really makes selling easy. And so what I do when I sell, whether it's one-on-one or on a webinar like this or a conference call or a speech face-to-face, is I like to set up the agenda or the outcomes for the presentation. So I'm letting you know up front, here's what today is about. Training you at a very high level, giving you some great distinctions on sales, and then an invitation to work with me if you connect with my message for as little as $50 a month. So if you were doing a front of the room talk and you were selling your book, you might say, I have 2 outcomes for my presentation tonight. My first outcome is to share with you some incredible ideas on health and wellness. Let's say that's what your book's about. And I'm going to share with you my three of my most powerful ideas from my book, and you're going to get some incredible training tonight. My second outcome is at the very end of our time together tonight, I'm going to provide you an opportunity to purchase one of my books. And I have a special for you this evening, and you'll have an opportunity to receive an autographed copy of my book at the very end of the talk. So when you do that, it really takes the pressure off, because they're clear. Okay, you're going to offer me the book, and some of them will make the decision in that moment, okay, I'm going to buy the book. And that's pretty cool when you have some people in the audience that have already mentally decided that they're going to purchase the book. Now, this is not just a technique for selling books. If you're doing back-end coaching, you can use this technique. For any product that you're selling, you can use this technique. It's one of the ways that I sell. I believe in what I call elegant influence. So we're not doing arm twisting, high pressure manipulation. We're doing elegant influence. And the way that I train, it's all about preparing in advance. Confidence goes up. So imagine you're on a radio show and you're totally confident with what you're going to say when it comes to the promotion of your book. Imagine you're getting ready to call a joint venture partner who, and this is crazy what I'm about to tell you, but I was on the phone today with a gentleman that has databases, multiple databases with over 6 million people. And I was having a conversation with him about promoting my sales training, like what we're doing tonight, to 6 million people. Well, it doesn't matter if it's a huge database like that or if they have a small list of, say, 100. When you get on the phone with somebody to organize some type of collaborative relationship, when you know what to say, your confidence soars. And if you don't know what to say, it can create a tremendous amount of anxiety. So I want you to know it's possible we can just totally eliminate all of that anxiety. Why learn sales? Well, here are some of the common activities to sell books and build a platform. So yesterday I interviewed Brooke, and I was introducing her to my network of people. And we had this wonderful time doing this interview, and Brooke was sharing that one of the things that she likes to help people do is to build a platform. And so some of you listening right now, you're in that mindset where you want to build a platform, a following of people. And others of you, you want to sell your books. And so here's some of the common things that you might do. Radio interviews, book signings, a blog contributor, a conference call, be a guest on a Blog Talk radio show, give a speech, deliver a webinar. Some of you do like what I do, how-to books. And so with how-to books, there are lots of additional opportunities to market other products and services like training, one-on-one coaching, home study courses, seminars, consulting, where there's the profit you can make from selling the book, but then there could be huge back-end profit if you happen to be in the how-to business. Well, being professionally trained in sales can help you in all of these areas. So the whole conversation around sales, one thing I'm hopeful that I'm able to at least make some progress, if not break you through this, is to have a mindset by the end of this webinar that you're open to the idea of sales and learning sales skills and seeing value in improving sales and sales skills in order to make your big dream happen. Because resisting sales, and if you do, it's not your fault. Our society's programmed you to think that way. But here's what I want you to understand. You may have come to this webinar with a belief around resisting sales, but I want you to get present to the fact that it's no longer serving you. Resisting sales does not serve us in helping us get our message out to the world, because when you want to get your message out to the world, we have to influence. We have to influence the radio, the person in charge of the radio interview to bring us on. You know, Brooke and I, we have built, this is our first time working together yesterday and today, and my intention is that we build this long-term business relationship where we can work together in a collaborative way, and I can continue to share what Brooke does with my network and vice versa. Well, that collaborative relationship is a sales conversation. It's a conversation of me influencing Brooke as to the value that I can bring to her and her community, and then her influencing me as to the value she can bring me and my community. And that conversation is very, very important. So we use the techniques of sales, which is simply elegant influence, the way I teach it. And there's many, many applications to influence. And by the way, there's no downside to being professionally trained in sales. It's just a skill set. There's 3 ways to elevate your results: the inner game, the outer game, and action. So here's what I believe about sales. If you do any one of these 3, you're going to increase your results. So the inner game, you probably already guessed, it's your mindset, it's your belief system. See, when it comes to the actual money asking, right, how much is your book, and you tell them and you ask them to buy it, right? Or you're asking people to buy your consulting package, or there's some money conversation. A lot of people have a mental block around that. And so the idea is, if we can strengthen your inner game, where you can be powerful and confident in the money conversation, that's a game changer. So we strengthen your inner game, you're going to see an increase in your results. If we strengthen your outer game, now the outer game is the how-tos. So it's what you say, when you say it, how you ask for the order, how you book the appointment, how you, in building your platform, you're going to want to build your email list and build your Twitter following and build your Facebook likes. And so there are very specific how-tos in influence. So if we strengthen your how-tos and your knowledge of the techniques of sales, you're going to see an increase. And then the third component is action. And action has to do with the activities that you do on an ongoing basis to get your message out. And I want to teach you a quick distinction here called track to run on. And I'm going to give you a sales example, a real-world sales example, and then I'm going to make it relevant to being an author. And then I'm going to have you think about how you can use this. I call it a distinction. Okay, so a distinction is just a good or a great idea. And when you learn a distinction, you can immediately use it. You can use it for the rest of your life. So track to run on, I learned it from a book about a guy named Ben Feldman. And Ben Feldman was the #1 life insurance salesman in the world. And when he was first starting out in life insurance sales, he was taught to sell 3 policies a week. You get what you focus on. So that was his track to run on. He'd wake up Monday morning, and my goal is to write 3 policies a week, and he focused on that, and he achieved it. And then Ben began to write bigger policies. He continued to write 3 policies a week on average, and he became even more successful. Then he wrote even bigger policies, again, 3 a week. He became even more successful, and then ultimately he became #1 in the world. Of all people that sell life insurance, #1 in the world, and he continued to write 3 policies a week. So I thought to myself, well, what's my track to run on? If Ben's is 3 policies a week, and I said, well, my track at my business is 1 group presentation per day. So what we're doing right now, this is in my language, this is a group presentation. This is a webinar, and we have, for me, a group of 6 or more people. So I look to speak to 6 or more people, conference call, webinar, or front of the room speech once a day or 20 business days a month. So that's my track. That's what I focus on. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of the Chicken Soup to the Soul book series. Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield were the brains behind that book series. And for a while, their track was 1 radio show per day. So they had a goal every day, no matter what, we're going to be on a radio show. And that was part of what launched them. So I want you to think about your book project. What is your track to run on? If you're writing your book right now, it might be that I'm going to spend an hour a day, 5 days a week writing. All right? If your book's already done, and maybe you're out looking for agents, and so you might want to submit a certain number of agent proposals. It might be like Canfield and Hansen, the number of radio shows you're on, or it could be the number of speeches like me, or it could be the number of people that have networks, and you approach them about getting the word out about your book, or approaching blog folks. So you think about that. How can you apply this distinction in your business? What is your track to run on? There's 3 key systems to grow any business. So I'm a system sales trainer. And one of the great things about a system is I've documented my system. And I'm going to give you as much as I can on my system today. Because it's documented, you can learn it. It's very easy to learn. And so I want you to start thinking in terms of these three key systems here: lead generation, appointment setting, and lead conversion. So if you want to get on radio shows, it's going to start with, okay, I need to generate leads of all the different radio shows I could be on, and then I need to reach out and contact them to book an appointment for me to be a guest on the radio show. And then the lead conversion part is when you're on the radio show, what you're going to do to promote the book. Are you going to be able to sell the book? Are you going to drive them to your website? Are you going to offer them something for free to acquire the lead and then go back to them at a later date and sell them the book? If you're going for speaking engagements where you can promote the book, the lead generation part would be finding people that have the ability to put you in front of their audience. Those would be the leads. And then you contact them to book an appointment to book you as a guest speaker. And then there's a whole conversation that needs to happen in order to get their approval to allow you to successfully sell your book from the front of the room. And then there's a whole conversation that happens in the speech. And I gave you one piece of, for example, it's a technique called pre-framing, and that's where you tell them up front that you're going to be offering your book at the end. Let me give you a great advanced technique of how you can get them to want your book before you even get to the end and offer it. And in the body of your presentation, you would make a point, like a content point, and then you would reinforce it with a story about somebody who purchased your book. This works brilliantly if you sell how-to books. So if I'm selling my sales book, I could make a point about a sales technique, reinforce it with the story of somebody who bought my book, and they go, oh, I want to get that book. So the key point on this slide is there are three key systems to grow any business, and so I think in terms of how am I going to generate the leads, how am I going to book the appointments, and how am I going to convert the sales. So we're going to shift gears now, and we're going to have a very important conversation about embracing sales. Because if you leave this webinar, if you have resistance to sales right now, and you hold on to that resistance, it's kind of like running a race with hurdles in front of you. So if you and I are the exact same speed and running, right, no matter how slow or fast, or let's say we're exact same speed, and we run a race, except this time without the hurdles we're the same speed, but you have to run the race and jump over the hurdles. But I don't. Who's going to win the race? I'm going to win the race every time. And so we have mental hurdles, and a mental hurdle that can hold us back is our mindset around sales. Thoughts are things, and things can be changed. Okay? A mindset actually changes in a moment. You could have had resistance to sales your whole life, and I want you to know it's possible if you're ready for this. If the time is right now, you could let go of resistance to sales and embrace sales, and it can happen. If you think about it, how long does it take a mindset to change? Well, when it actually changes, it happens in a moment, and I want to teach you a technique on how to do this. Many people have resistance to sales, and when they think of selling, they think of arm twisting, high pressure, manipulation, used car sales, liar, slick, fast talker. If I thought that this is what selling is, I would resist it too. Things only have the meaning that we give them. So if you make sales mean what's on the screen right now, you are going to resist sales because that's what you would believe if you had this belief system about sales. So I want to teach you a way to change your thinking. Selling is not good or bad. It's just a skill set. Typing good or bad? Neither. It's just a skill set. Accounting good or bad? Neither. It's just a skill set. All selling is, it's a skill set. It's a style of communication that increases the likelihood that the other person says yes. So, would you like to get more yeses? You want more radio stations to say yes, more collaborative partners to say yes, or people that, when you say, would you like to buy my book, say yes. You know, whatever you're doing in your book project, if you would like to get more yeses, I'm going to suggest that the key to you getting more yeses is simply learning a style of communication called sales. That's all. I learned this next technique from Napoleon Hill in the book Think and Grow Rich, and that's one of the great things about books. You know, my life has been so influenced by books. And in Think and Grow Rich, there's a distinction that Napoleon Hill talks about called autosuggestion. And basically, you reprogram the subconscious mind by saying something to yourself over and over and over again. There's a vocabulary to success. Change begins in language. Change begins in language. And so if you happen to have a camera phone, pull out your camera phone right now and take a picture of the screen. If you don't have a camera phone, write down, that's an affirmation on your screen right now. Selling equals service. Sell from honesty, integrity, and compassion. Selling is about leading. Selling is about moving people to action. And so here's the idea. You say the affirmation on the screen right now. That's why I want you to write it down or take a picture with your camera phone. You say what's on the screen 10 times a day, out louder to yourself for the next 30 days. If you will say what's on the screen here 10 times a day for the next 30 days, I believe it's possible you could have a major shift in your mindset about sales. Change begins in language. I'm going to suggest that the success of your book can be greatly enhanced by you embracing sales and learning how to increase the likelihood that somebody says yes. I'm also going to suggest, from my experience, this is a skill set that anybody can learn, and it's a skill set that will positively impact you for the rest of your life. So I want to share a quick story with you about one of my clients. His name is Scott Southall. And this is a photo of Scott. He's a photographer and videographer. And the reason I'm sharing the story is Scott had huge resistance to selling. And he called me one day and he asked me for an emergency coaching session. And I said, you know, this sounds serious. What's going on? And he said, Eric, I'm about to lose my photography studio because my sales are down. So here's a client of mine who had huge resistance to selling. Yet he was in a place where his dream, he was going to have to learn how to sell to make his dream happen because he was about to lose his studio. And for somebody who has a photography and video studio, that's really, really important to them, as you know, you could probably imagine. And so one of the things I asked Scott is, do you know exactly what to say to get somebody to buy from you? And he said no. And so I worked with him on the precise language of what to say. In his case, it was selling his video and photography services. So at the very end of our webinar here, when I extended an invitation for us to work together for as little as $50 a month, those of you that sign up, I'm going to pair you up with one of my coaches. And my coaches work with people like you all day, every day, and they help you with your sales challenges. And I'll have one of my coaches help you with the precise language, whether you want to book yourself on radio or sell your book from another room or whatever you're having a challenge with. You can share that with my coach, and they'll spend a half an hour with you, just like what I did with Scott Southall. I was able to break Scott through this. Once he knew what to say, he's like, Eric, I can do this. Now, I'm not going to suggest that Scott is a sales master, because he's not. And honestly, he probably never will be. It's not that he couldn't. It's just to master something, I mean, you've got to really, really put the time in. But what I am going to suggest is he has strong enough sales skills now in order to make his business dream happen. In my experience working with entrepreneurs, or in this case, you know, authors, you know, you're probably not on this call wanting to become a master of sales. Maybe there's a couple of you that do want that. Probably why you're on this call is I just want to know how to be good enough at it so I can successfully make my dream happen around my book project. I want to share with you a story about an author that I worked with. Her name is Rosie Bank, and this is her book. It's called You Inc. And this is Rosie on the right there. On the left is Judy O'Higgins, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Judy's also one of my clients, and she's an author as well. And Rosie was using her book for her platform, and she is in the health and wellness space. And she has a product line of health and wellness products. She does health coaching. She does health seminars. And so part of her motivation for successfully writing a book was to enhance her platform. And so I want to share with you some of the ways that Rosie has used sales skills. This may resonate with some of you. Rosie uses sales skills to sell her product. So some of you that are listening right now, you have products or services to sell in addition to your book project. When you get professionally trained in sales, not only does it help you with your book project, but it helps you with whatever you sell. Rosie uses it to sell her book. She does speeches, so she uses sales skills to book speeches, so generate leads, book appointments, and then successfully give the speeches. These are speeches not where she's being paid to speak. They're free speeches that she uses as a way of getting her message out to the world. Rosie has high-end back-end coaching. So she acquires a lead from her book, she puts the lead into her database, she creates a following, and then she offers her coaching services. She also is in network marketing. She has a health and wellness product in network marketing, and so sometimes she's selling the product or selling the business opportunity. Rosie does seminars. So she uses sales skills to sell seminars, and then she's building up her email list. So one of the things that, and this is, Brooke mentioned this when I interviewed her yesterday, was the importance of building a following. Because when I come out with a new product, or let's say I come out with a new book, I have a book that will be coming out in the near future, and when I have that book come out, I've got a network of people to sell it to, because I focused on building a platform, building a following. And so now you want a multiple followings, your email following, your Twitter following, your Facebook following, your YouTube following. So what I want to do in our remaining time is I want to focus on some really specific how-tos for professional sales training. I want to give you some great golden nuggets that could make a huge difference for you. Any one of these ideas could make a difference for you. And one of the 5 most important words in sales is that number 1 there, sequence. Sequence is the order that the presentation goes in. So if you're doing a front of the room talk to sell your book, and it's a 30-minute talk, there's a sequence to what you're going to cover. And so you would want to create an outline for all the key points that you're going to cover, and then you want to think in terms of sequence. Well, what's the order that the outline goes in? So simple sequence example that you can all connect with. When I met my wife years ago, at the end of the first date, I didn't say, I had an amazing time, will you marry me? Will you marry me is a reasonable request, but not at the end of a first date. So we want to be thinking through, what are the requests that I'm making? And I want to make sure I'm making the request in the proper time. And what are the key points that I want to cover, and what's the sequence? So the first golden nugget is sequence. And then the second one is that you can work on each step in the sequence by itself. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. This is the process that I teach. So those of you that choose to train with me, we'll go in depth on this. I'll cover as much of this as I can in our remaining time. It's called the sales mountain. And what's great about this, it's an easy metaphor to get. So part of this is you're a mountain climbing guide, and your job is to lead and guide your prospect up the sales mountain into what's called the sweet spot. And if you look at the screen, you'll see where it says sweet spot top 25%. What that means is the top 25% of the mountain is where you ask for the order. Now, I want to share something interesting with you. Some people don't want to ask for the order. They want the prospect to say to them, like in this case, can I buy your book? Instead of you saying, would you like to buy my book? They're waiting for the prospect to say, you know, how do I get a copy of your book? And here's the challenge with that. If you look at the screen visually, at the very peak of the mountain, if the prospect says to me, oh, I really want to get a copy of your book, how do I get a copy of your book? That means they're at the very peak of the mountain. And it's cool when somebody asks you, hey, how do I get a copy of your book? Or they ask you to buy your coaching program or whatever product or service you're offering. Here's the thing, though. We don't want the prospect, in most cases, to ask us to buy. Here's why. You can close. Closing simply means where you ask for the commitment, all right? You can close anywhere from the top 25% on up to the top of the peak. If you're waiting for the prospect to say to you, how do I get a copy of your book, you're missing out on a ton of opportunity. So if you wait for them to ask you, then I'm going to say for every one person that asks you, if you're not asking them, you missed out on 9 sales. So every once in a while, it's okay for somebody to say, hey, how do I buy your product? But we don't see, now they're leading us. Okay, selling is about leading. So we're the expert. Okay, you're the author. I'm the author. We're the expert. Our job is to lead them. My marketing mentor, Jay Abraham, told me, he said, Eric, your clients are silently begging to be led. They're silently begging to be led. See, the people that want to buy your book, they want you to lead them and tell them, look, this is a great book, and here's why you should get it. And here's how you can get it today. Would you like to get it? See, you would like me to lead you to sales greatness. See, I know you see value in that. You're on the webinar right now. You get, okay, this guy, Eric, this guy knows what he's talking about. And I do, because I've been doing this for 20 years. Well, your clients are no different. Even if your book isn't a how-to. You know, let's say you write a novel, right? People want to be led, oh, this is a great novel. You should purchase this novel. You're going to absolutely love it. So they want to be led. So in this metaphor, you're a mountain climbing guide, and you're going to lead and guide your prospect up the sales mountain in the sweet spot. And you'll notice that I've broken it down into individual steps. You'll also notice that there's a sequence to the sales mountain. It starts on the left-hand side with lead generation. So lead generation is the first step. That's the first thing that we do. And then we book an appointment. And then we build trust and rapport. And then we identify customer needs. And then we share the benefits. And then we close. And then sometimes they give us an objection. So closing is asking for a commitment. And they say, well, the price is too high, or I need to think about it, or I'm already have 2 other books that I need to finish first, or whatever they say. And then follow-up is on the right side of the sales mountain. Well, here's the thing. This is what I'm teaching you. This is a generic process, sales mountain. And what you do is you take this process, and then I teach you to customize it for your business. So when you're building a collaborative relationship, like what Brooke and I are doing for each other, right? So I'm opening up my network to her, and she's opening up her network to me. So here's my question for all of you listening. Would you like to build collaborative relationships with people who can open up their network for you? You're like, well, yeah, Eric, that sounds great. And by the way, that's the #1 way I know to grow a business. The #1 way I know to grow a business is Brooke and I are role modeling this for you. Okay? So there's a sales mountain, a sequence for you to build collaborative relationships. So you take this process of sales mountain, you learn the whole sequencing conversation, and then you go, okay, how do I apply this in my business? So it starts with lead generation. The purpose of generating a lead is to generate a lead. That's it. What that means is when we're generating leads, we're not selling our book yet. All we're doing is generating a lead, because it's along the lines of the mindset of the following. See, there's an asset value to every lead. And so you build up this following of people. And let's say you build up an email list of 1,000 people. And then your book's done, and now you can email market to those 1,000 people. But you can't market to the leads that aren't in there. So the purpose of generating a lead is to generate a lead. And I want to tell you a very valuable mindset. This was a life-changing idea for me. I made a ton of money from this simple idea. Somebody taught me years ago to build up a following of people. And so I have this little voice in the back of my head, and it says this to me almost daily. Eric, build the list. Build the list. Build the list. And so I build my Twitter list daily. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Lofholm. I build my Twitter list. I build my Facebook. I build my email list, because there's an asset value to the list, so then I can go back to them and market any products, including books. So after we generate the lead, the next step is to set an appointment. The purpose of setting an appointment is to set an appointment. And I'm going to give you a golden nugget right here. When you're contacting a radio station to be a guest, or you're contacting a blogger to collaborate with them in some way, or you're contacting an association to be a guest speaker, or you're contacting a bookstore to do a book signing, or you're contacting somebody with an email list to help you with a book launch, to promote your book, you must look at it from their viewpoint. Our favorite thing to talk about is ourselves. So my favorite thing to talk about is myself. Your favorite thing to talk about is yourself. And that creates a problem. Because when two people come together, if their favorite thing to talk about is themselves, it creates a disconnect. When you're influencing, it's not about you, it's all about them. So if I contact a radio station, the whole conversation is how having me on as a guest is going to create value for their listeners. Having me on as a contributing blog post person is going to create value for their blog. By them promoting me to their database, it's going to create value for them. So this requires preparation. We don't want to just hop on the phone with somebody until we thought through what are the value points that I'm going to bring up. And these are all things that we professionally train you on virtually. Okay, now we're at trust and rapport. Trust and rapport is the first step in a live presentation, over the phone, face-to-face, right? One of the things that I did at the beginning of this webinar is I acknowledged you because I know that some of you have resistance to sales. And part of why I was doing that was to build rapport with you in a sincere way. Because it's true. You have an open mind or you wouldn't have come to the webinar, and that's a big deal. And I know it's hard for some of you. Oh my gosh, sales is in the title, and do I really want to come to this thing? But you're, oh, I need it. And so I wanted to share that I appreciate you coming on this call and being open-minded. So you want to open up your presentation with trust and rapport. And after we build trust and rapport, we identify customer needs. This is when you sell one-to-one. The easiest way to persuade or influence somebody is to find out what they want and give it to them. So after we build trust and rapport, then we identify customer needs. Then we share the benefits. And at the end of the day, people buy benefits. Make a note to yourself to come up with the top 5 benefits of your book. When somebody buys your book, what are they going to learn? And a great way when you're actually doing the sale of the book is to say, in chapter 1, you will learn. And on chapter 4, you'll learn. And on chapter 7, you're going to learn. And don't do it for every single chapter, but that's a very persuasive technique to communicate benefits that they're going to learn from the book. And one way to bring the benefits to life in a professional sales presentation is to tell success stories. Because nothing sells like success. And I want to share a success story with you about an author that I worked with. And it's the woman on the left there. Her name is Judy O'Higgins. And Judy is in network marketing. And she wrote a book called License to Dream. And part of why she wrote this book is she wanted to create credibility for herself when she was enrolling people into her network marketing opportunity. She also wanted to help other people in network marketing that were struggling. And she wanted to share her years of wisdom because Judy, with my help, got to number 20 in her company. They have over 100,000 reps. When I met Judy, she'd never been professionally trained in sales before. And her background is as a counselor. Now I'm going to bring up her other photo because you can see her picture a little bit better here. There it is. That's Judy right there on the left. And when I met her, she had traveled to come see me at a live seminar. I wasn't doing a webinar back then. She traveled from Arizona to San Diego to come to one of my seminars years ago. There's nothing more powerful than a good idea whose time has come. And it was that day Judy just resonated with my message. And her background was as a counselor. She'd never been professionally trained in sales before. And she recognized that to make her dream happen, she needed sales skills. And so we started working together. And Judy used the sales skills to successfully launch her book. She is now building a whole back-end coaching program. And her latest vision is to have a $27 product, followed by a $197 product, followed by a $697 product, followed by, we haven't figured this out, a $3,000 to $5,000 product. And she's sitting on a $10,000 to $30,000 per month business. And part of the platform of this whole thing is her book, License to Dream. And what I'm so proud of in helping Judy is here's somebody who'd never been professionally trained in sales before, and she's now has the skills to make her dream happen. And that's something I want you to think about right now. Think about the value that you'd receive if you received professional training. And we're just about at the top of the hour. And what I'd like to do right now is simply extend an invitation because I want you to work with me. I have put together an irresistible offer. I'm gonna shock you. I'm going to shock you. I'm going to blow you away with the incredibly generous price point that I put together. And if you resonated with my message and you're like, you know what, man, I really need professional training, I've got the program to support you, and you're going to absolutely love what I've put together. The program is called the Unstoppable Selling System. And what you're going to learn is my entire system for selling. And I've organized this system in multiple different learning formats. And the reason for that is we all learn in different ways. And so I'm going to share with you the different ways that I'm going to train you. The investment is $1,295. Now, don't be surprised by that because I'm going to completely blow you away with what it is that I've put together for those of you on the live webinar. Those of you that are listening to the recording, you're going to have an opportunity as well, and I'll explain exactly how that works at the end of the webinar here. This is virtual professional sales training. So you're training with me virtually right now. You're on either the webinar or you're watching the recording, and you can do my entire program in the same format that you're doing right now. I will train you on how to generate leads. For you, that's leads for radio shows, speaking engagements, book signings, collaborative partners, people to sell your book to, and then you can use the techniques if you're involved in any other businesses. If you have a coaching or consulting business, if you're a real estate agent, anything you do, you can use my techniques. I'm going to teach you how to set unlimited appointments, and you'll learn exactly how to close. Closing is surprisingly easy once you're trained step by step how to do it. Now, I have this picture of Angry Birds here, and the reason for this is I'm going to surprise you with the price discount that I'm going to offer today. So much to the point where you might scratch your head and go, why is Eric willing to do it for that discount of a price? My vision, I want to train and certify 1 million people in my sales system. So I'm going to pass on the savings to you. We're going to offer you an incredible discount because we make up for it in volume. What that means is Angry Birds sells a video game, and if I bought it for my son's Xbox, it'd be $50. You buy the same game on your iPhone as an app, and it's 99 cents. So why would they sell a $50 game for 99 cents? And the answer is they make up for it in volume. What's included? So the first way that I train you is a 1.5-day virtual immersion sales training. The idea is I provide you 6 months of professional sales training in a day and a half. The next one's coming up this week. You're like, Eric, nice notice on that one. Here's the good thing. We teach it every month. So if you're like, I can make it, it's this Thursday from 4 to 7 California time and 9 to 5 Friday. If you can make it, you're in. Great. If you can't make it this month, you can do it next month or the month after. Every single month I teach this course live. We do it virtually so you don't have to hop on a plane and fly to California. The next way we train you is I have my 12 modules, my wholesale system in the membership website. So you're going to get instant access to the membership website, all 12 modules, the whole system, and you can do that in self-study. They're 30 minutes each, so it's 6 hours of content, and that's for those of you that are motivated and you can do it in self-study. The third way I'm going to train you is we do a weekly live 30-minute module. It's every Thursday at 4 o'clock California time. And this is for those of you that enjoy conference calls. Following the module, we do Q&A. If you are unable to make those calls, there's no requirement. Again, the whole system is in the 12 modules. We teach the whole system, the same system in the 1.5-day virtual immersion, but if you like conference call learning, it's available for you. If you like audio learning, every conference call is recorded, and we use podcasting. So you can listen on your iPhone, your iPad, your iPod, you can listen, it's an MP3 file. So anywhere where you can listen to an MP3 file, any computer, tablet, you can listen to that. If you like Facebook, we have a private Facebook group for my members. It has over 1,000 members, and you can ask your questions of the Facebook group, and then people join in and they'll answer your sales-related questions. Now, I decided to do something really special for Brooke, and I don't do this, okay? But I wanted to do something special, to do something custom for all of you on giving you sales skills for specific things that you need for your book project. So I'm doing a special 4-week webinar for those of you that sign up tonight as a bonus. It's 4 Wednesdays. It's the next 4 Wednesdays, not tomorrow, but the following week, starting August 28th. We're going to train at 4 o'clock California time. I'll do a 30-minute module followed by 30 minutes of Q&A, and every webinar will be recorded. So if you're unable to make the webinar, you can watch it whenever it's convenient for you over your computer. Webinar 1, how to book yourself to speak on conference calls, webinars, speeches, and radio shows. So I'm going to break down the whole sales model on how to do that. Webinar 2, how to sell your book on conference calls, webinars, and speeches. So now you get yourself booked. Okay, now how do we actually sell the book? Webinar 3, how to get people with networks to promote your book. That's joint ventures, strategic alliances, and collaboration. This is hot, 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 okay? The #1 way I'm building my business right now is by collaborating with people that have networks, people just like Brooke. So I've got a whole formula on how I do that, and I'm going to teach you how to do that for your book project. That's webinar 3. And again, if you can't make it, it's recorded. You can watch it whenever it's convenient for you. Webinar 4, this is for those of you that are in the how-to space, how to sell back-end coaching once they purchase the book. You can make $100,000 a year or more in back-end coaching programs. So for those of you that are interested in that, we're going to do a webinar on that. The next bonus, when you sign up in the next hour, I'm going to upgrade you from a 1-year membership to a lifetime membership. What that means is you'll be a lifetime client of mine. You can train with me for as long as you want, be part of the Facebook group or the membership website and so forth. No additional fees or dues for life. Now, those of you in the recording, we're going to do that 1-hour special on the honesty policy. So if you're watching the recording, you can get these extra bonuses too, as long as you register in the next hour, and that's on the honesty policy. This program comes with a 30-day unconditional written money-back guarantee, no risk. You'll sign up today if you're unhappy for any reason. We have a written, no questions asked money-back guarantee. And here's the discount. I told you it was going to be significant. It's a $996 discount, making a total investment, a one-time payment of $299 or 8 payments of $50. If you do the math on the payments, 8 times 50 is $400. So you can save $101 by doing the full pay, $299, or it's 8 payments of $50. Where you're going to order is at silverprotege.com. When you go to silverprotege.com, the pricing on there is going to say $500. When you click on the order button, it's going to take you to a special page that has the correct pricing. So you go to silverprotege.com. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of extra bonuses. This is for those of you that register in the next 10 minutes, and this is also on the honesty policy. Those of you that are watching the recording, this is on the honesty policy, okay? I'm going to throw in my time management course, which is a phenomenal program. It's delivered over the internet at $77. I'm going to give you an extra $50 off the already great price. And I'm going to pair you up with one of my coaches. They charge $125 for a 30-minute session. They will work with you for a half an hour on any aspect of sales that you would like support with. So here's your webinar special. It's $249 or 7 payments of $50. That's for those of you that register in the next 10 minutes. You go to silverprotege.com. You can sign up with any major credit card or debit card, Visa, American Express, MasterCard, or Discover. When you hit the buy button, it'll have the correct pricing. And before I turn the call back over to Brooke, I want to end with my classic closing line. And it goes like this. Whether you sign up for my program or not, you pay either way. There is an investment in the program. In this case, it's $249 for a lifetime membership or 7 payments of $50. There's also a cost to not being professionally trained in sales. And that cost is all of the potential that you have inside of you once you have the skill set. What I can honestly tell you, before I was professionally trained in sales, I struggled. My life changed with the skill set. And I love teaching others and sharing the skill set with others. The program is everything that I say it is and more. It's a lifetime membership. It's an incredible opportunity. I look forward to working with those of you that would like my help. And with that, I'd like to turn the webinar back over to Brooke.
Thank you so much for that, Eric. And I do want to share with everyone that I'm a lifetime member. It's also just tons of interesting content. I mean, Eric does a great job of, you know, scouring the earth for good people and interesting kinds of things to present. And it's really relatable. And a lot of you are asking questions, you know, how does this relate to me if I'm writing fiction? A couple poetry people on the line, memoirists I know feel the same way. And I really want to encourage all of you to think about ways to translate this skill set. And if you're going to take Eric up on this offer, particularly if you're going to do the one-on-one coaching, you can ask the coaches, you know, because I think sometimes it requires you to step away from your own project or get the perspective of someone else to understand the ways in which it's relatable. These, you know, particular skill set is relatable to you, you know, and I think this goes, I want to say, especially for the memoirists and fiction writers, because I hear it every single webinar we do, the memoirists and the novelists saying, but I don't get how to translate that into what I'm doing. And what it's really about is using the same skill sets and figuring out what your issues are. So each and every one of you, if you're writing a memoir, it's got to be issue-based. You know, you have a primary category. If you're writing a novel, there are issues throughout your novel that you can pull out and, in essence, become an expert on that topic and then apply Eric's skill set. So I want to encourage you that if you're thinking this is totally not for me because of the genre that you're writing, to rethink that, because all of the successful people in your genre who are building their platforms and experiencing, you know, sales and doing a good job with all of this stuff, they're following the principles that Eric is teaching. So, you know, if you're even considering this, go out on a limb, especially take advantage of the one-on-one coaching and just, you know, bring that to the coach's attention and say, here's what I have, you know, give them a synopsis. Sometimes you really have to have someone else see what you're not seeing. So Eric's got great material. Eric, I want to thank you so much for being here today, and thank you all of you for being on the call, and thank you to all of you listening on the recording, and we look forward to the next great offer, and have a really fantastic night.
Thanks so much. It's great to be with all of you. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.